So Charizard has a ton of different options when it comes to competitive Pokemon. While it's most often paired with Sun to take advantage of solar power and boosts to fire, I'm gonna go with the exact opposite. Today we're working with a Rain Sweeper Charizard, and the Fire Boy is about to get all sorts of wet, so hear me out. First of all, people are gonna be super thrown off by Zard coming in with the rain up, and we can use that to our advantage. We pull out Weather Ball, which is now a 100 power water move that gets the 50% damage boost by the rain, and we can boost it up even further by committing to the full water Charizard with Terra Water. This helps us out a lot defensively, but the moral of the story is that nobody expects or wants to take a Weather Ball, especially when we throw in a Life Orb for even more damage. Other than that, we can take advantage of 100% accurate stab hurricanes that hit like a truck, along with potential Focus Blasts or Scorching Sands if needed. The funny part is that if the opponent is working with a Sun team, this thing could still even go crazy with solar power boosted Weather Balls that just change over to the Fire type, but for the most part, we're here to make Charizard a full-on surprise Rain Sweeper, and I think it might actually work. Did anybody ask for a wet Charizard? Because you're getting a wet Charizard. You guys remember that anime episode where freaking Damien left his Charmander like on the rock in the rain? I like to imagine that this is the Charizard that grew up to enjoy the rain and uses it to destroy people. I always like to get up to some goofy Pokemon nonsense, and if that sounds like a fun time to you, you should hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It's free, it only takes you a second, you probably won't regret it, and with that, let's get into the action. Alright, so my opponent is going to lead off with the Meowscarada, and as I've got a lead in Empoleon, we got a little matchup of starters, but I'm mostly here to set up my Stealth Rock. I know this thing can't knock me out in one hit, so I'm just gonna stay in here and set up some rocks. What could possibly go wrong? Meowscarada is gonna go for the pivot, just straight up with a U-turn, and that is gonna be just fine for my Tubby Penguin. So it does a little bit of chip. I'm now gonna be able to get up my rocks, and I don't know exactly. I'm kind of worried about that thing being Scarf, but in general, Meowscarada always scary. But as they end up bringing in the Tinkaton, I imagine this is probably because it's just specially defensive. It can take any attack from Empoleon, but also it's probably here to set up Stealth Rock of its own. But I don't really know exactly what it wants to do here. Now, I'm also looking at this thinking this battlefield is not nearly wet enough, and I'm gonna try to get something interesting going here. So first of all, I'm gonna flip turn. Gonna be able to do a little bit of chip. Since this thing is faster, I'll get the slow pivot, so I'll be able to bring in a matchup for free. It turns out they do go for the knockoffs. It gets rid of my leftovers, not really a huge deal. As I flip turn, grab a little bit of damage, I'm head out, and now I'm thinking there's kind of, it's a little bit of an awkward situation for Charizard especially, to be able to get going against this in the rain. But I am going to first go into Pelipper. That's to get up the rain, plus my big ass beak over here can take any attack from this thing. But the main thing we needed was that drizzle. I hope this battlefield has a good drainage system because it's about to get flooded as hell out here. So I'm thinking they just go for Stealth Rock here, right? Nope, wrong. They go for the knockoff, get rid of my Damprock, and there's items all over the damn place. So, well, that's a little bit unfortunate. At least, you know, I have the rain up for the max amount of turns at the moment. I go for the U-turn here. I'm just pivoting all over the damn place. And now I feel like it's time to go into Charizard. So, first of all, it's funny because they're probably like, why the hell would I go set up rain before I bring in the Charizard to threaten this thing? They're probably worried about fire coverage. But what they don't know is that I don't have it. I'm instead going to go for the Weather Ball, which is going to do big damage. I can take anything from Tinkaton. But as they end up switching, they bring in Glimmora. And this is great because this, you know, rock-type boy comes in, takes a Stealth Rock, potentially breaks a Focus Sash, and then Weather Ball, boom, right to the face. And that is going to be able to knock it out. So down goes Glimmora, and Weather Ball Zard already off to a start here. Weather Ball in the rain is such an overlooked move, especially with Life Orb. Charizard's pretty nice with that. So the Drippy Zard is just getting started out here because as they end up bringing in the freaking Don Bozo, I am usually in a situation where this is not great. But what I can do is go for the Terra Water. That's going to allow me to take any water move this thing wants to throw at me. And then I'm feeling like depending on how this thing is, it could probably get a 2-hit KO with a Hurricane. So I'm going to go full water Charizard. We now have the fountain. The lore says that this Charizard would be pretty much dead, but it's fine. I put the fountain on my head looking ridiculous. I go for the Hurricane, 100% accurate in rain. It's going to do easily enough for a 2-hit KO. And as they go for the Waterfall, it is boosted by that rain. But since I'm Water type now, we live it easily. And we're still chilling above half. So now I'm free to just go for another Hurricane. And as you can tell, this Charizard is already starting to stir stuff up. So it turns out they end up swapping. They go into Meowscarada for some reason. They go into the Meowscarada who comes in on a Hurricane and just gets absolutely put in a damn washing machine. And now it's destroyed. So that's going to take care of the Meowscarada. So an interesting swap in, but Charizard, look, the Zard's going to take it. So, I mean, You give the Zard some openings like that, you're gonna have a bad time. Also, this Charizard looks really good matchup-wise against most of everything they have on their team. So, as they now go Armor Rouge, I'm like, well, barring a defensive Terra, guess what? A Weather Ball, now especially boosted by the Terra and the Rain. This is gonna absolutely destroy like 3 of those guys at the same time. So that's gonna take care of young shoulder pads, and the Charizard is going crazy. So the one thing that I know is that depending on if that Tinkaton is like max HP or even any special defense invested, it can take an attack from me. But as they go Tinkaton here, one thing they're probably worried about is the fact that in general, it can only really go for like a knockoff in terms of like neutral damage. So as they bring it in, turns out it does have Fake Out, which is annoying. It's gonna waste a turn of Rain. I do still have 1 of them left. I can now outspeed, go for that big boosted Weather Ball. If this thing is more offensive, it will knock it out. So I'm like, maybe it is. It turns out it does end up living because the Tinkaton about thick as hell on the special side. So as I take some Life Orb Chip, now they can go for that knockoff, and it is going to be enough. I am low enough to where that's going to take me out. So down goes the Charizard, but not before the shenanigans were had. Their team they poke some pretty significant holes in it, and it's not too bad. So we also got some really good chip on the Tinkaton, which is nice. The Rain also goes away at a pretty convenient time, so I'm like, this is fine. I'm going to go right back into Young Toilet Bird to get that Rain right back up, because again, our goal is to flood this damn place. So we come in, we get that Drizzle. Here's a fun fact. I have Hydro Pump on this thing. It's supposed to be Weather Ball. I messed that up. It's definitely got the wrong move. But I go for the Hydro Pump anyway with a little extra damage, and obviously that's going to be able to take care of the Tink. So with that out of the way, the game is definitely not over, because as they now bring in Baxcalibur, this Dragon Bastard is a problem. Here's the thing. They have a Terra in the back pocket still, and looking at this thing, it's pretty free to go for a Dragon Dance here, and that would be really bad. 1 Dragon Dance allows them to outspeed everything I've got, and I don't have a whole lot of crazy stuff to deal with the Baxcalibur. So they do go for the Terra. They're going to pull out the Terra Water, and that is, it's a friggin' Fountain Baxcalibur doing its best Charizard impression. But my plan is this. Knowing that they are going to go for a Dragon Dance, that's going to bring them to +1 attack and speed. Obviously, Baxcalibur, very scary. But what I can do is go for the Tailwind. That's going to ensure that in the back, I have a little insurance policy now with Virizion. And for the next 4 turns, I should be able to outspeed with that thing as long as they don't Dragon Dance again. Turns out, luckily, they don't. They go for a Glaive Rush. That is going to knock out the Pelipper, but the Tailwind is extremely nice there. And honestly, the one thing that's kind of saving me from a little late game sweep, because Baxcalibur goes crazy. But what I can do now, go right into the Virizion, especially since they went for that Terra Water. Had they not defensively Terra'd, I would have had the super effective close combat. But regardless, I can now outspeed under the Tailwind, slice and dice his ass up with a Leaf Blade, and that's going to be a dead Baxcalibur. So thank God. The late game Baxcalibur, it's always when you're like feel like you're having a really good game, Baxcalibur comes in, Dragon Dances once, and then you just lose. But thank God we're able to clutch it out there with the Verizon Wireless. Now, final one going to be Dondozo, and we're having some big-ass sushi because I slice it up. And that's going to be the end of the game on that one. So, after some Rocky Helmet chip for the road, that was just a weird-ass game where Charizard got to use some crazy water coverage, and we had some fun with it. So, I fear the Rain Zard is honestly more fun than I thought it was going to initially be. Literally, nobody expects it, and it does way better than you think. So, that's now going to bring us into game number 2. And look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, you should go ahead and hit that like button. It just helps out the algorithm or something. I don't actually know if it even does anything, but I mean, whatever. Just click the button and help your boy out. And with that, now let's jump into the next game. All right, so this time we are immediately greeted by danger. They lead off with a Lucario, and as I've got Empoleon, we're a couple of steel type fellas where my ass is about to get punched to the Shadow Realm. So I'm like, you know what? I would enjoy not just sacking Empoleon turn 1. So instead, I'm gonna switch into Pelipper, and honestly, an excuse to switch into Pelipper is fine. I can start the Rain nonsense just right off the bat. So we get the Drizzle up. Plus, if they go for the close combat, which they do, while I do have a big punchable beak, it doesn't do anything. But this Pelipper is pretty damn bulky. Unless you're 1 volt of electricity, then I'm gonna have a bad time. Regardless, I'm now just gonna go for the U-turn and try to get something going. It feels like Charizard comes in here, or maybe even just one of my other rainy boys. So they are gonna end up going for the Terra Ice right off the bat. I'm like, the Terra Ice. All right, then I'm gonna see what Buddy's cooking here. Now they go for the Terra Ice boosted Ice Punch, and that still is not gonna do much because again, I'm maxed out defensive Pelipper. So now I can just go for the U-turn, and now Buddy's looking like a real fool with a snowflake on his head. So at this point now with the slow pivot, I can go into whatever I want, and honestly, While the Water Zard is the star of the show, now feels like a pretty good time to go into the absolute destroyer of worlds. I'm talking Gadnook, the destroyer. I go into Luvdisc, who can now outspeed. I connect with a Hydro Pump, and that Lucario just got absolutely embarrassed by a Luvdisc. Never before seen. That base 40 special attack just knocked your ass out. You should probably give up. But the game goes on. Honestly, Luvdisc is hilarious, and I do really want to try to get this thing to do something funny. But as they now end up bringing in Ogerpon, regular base, just grass type Ogerpon's a little bit of a problem. You can obviously go for an Ivy Cudgel, but our wet Spicy Boy comes in pretty nicely here. Ogerpon doesn't have too much depending on what this thing's working with. Also, while it is faster than me, if it's not going to be a Jolly Nature, I'll be able to outspeed. But regardless, I can now threaten this thing out. They're probably thinking fire. Nope, I go right for the Hurricane as they switch into Skeledirge, probably expecting to just take nothing from a fire attack. Now a Hurricane is an easy 2-hit KO, but I decided to just go for that Weather Ball, and that's going to knock out the Skeledirge. And that's got to be like the easiest I've dealt with a Skeledirge in quite a while. Especially I didn't even have Stealth Rock up, and that's amazing to get rid of that thing early. So we're over here taking some Life Orb chip, but in general, Charizard's already feeling pretty nice. We've got off to a pretty good start here. Now as they bring in Pecharunt, here's the thing about Pecharunt. This little berry bastard is really nice on the physically defensive side. What it's not so nice at is the special defense side. It's got base 88. So with that knowledge, I'm going to now bust out the Terra Water, dude. I feel like, why not? It's time to go full Water Zard. There's never a better time, because now I can go for the rain boosted Weather Ball with the Terra boost and the Life Orb, and this berry just got absolutely destroyed. So that takes care of Pecharunt, easy 1-hit KO. And now I'm full Water Charizard in my natural habitat, dude. The flame is slowly going out, but that just gives me more power, it turns out. So, as now they go Ogerpon, I realize this is a decent revenge switch into now my Water-type Charizard, because if they go into it then, it's probably going to be running Jolly. Most of these things are. And it can just go for an Ivy Cudgel, and I do not want to lose the Zard early. So, I decided to switch into the Virizion here. I can take any attack from this thing. While I can't touch it that crazy in return, the Ivy Cudgel doesn't do anything. Plus, the rain goes away anyway, and Zard needs to wait for that to come back. So, as I now go for the close combat, I really just would like some chip on the Ogerpon, but they end up switching into Toxicroak here. It turns out to just be like a crazy natural like defensive wall to this Virizion. It resists everything, and Toxicroak's freaking neck over there looks like it's broken, but he is staring straight up into the sky for some reason, showing off his weird, gross neck bubble. But I obviously have to get Virizion out of here as a good check to that Ogerpon that I want to kind of keep intact. And I figured, you know what, this guy's probably like dry skin or something, but seems like a pretty decent time to go into the Pelipper here. As they end up going for low kick, that's fine. Doesn't do anything to me. I kind of expected this thing to come in and take a Sludge Bomb or something and die. But as they now go for the Sludge Bomb, I leave it with 4. This Pelipper just does not die. And as I go for the U-turn, that's really nice, because now I can potentially bring back in Pelipper if needed. If this place isn't quite wet enough yet, I can make it rain just another time if need be. So at this point, now I can go into Charizard, and this momentum switch in here is really nice, because now this puts me on the upper hand in terms of something is going to die here. There's nothing that really switches in. As I go for the Hurricane, there's a common theme of people switching in their grass types on this Charizard, and I go for the Hurricane, and guess what? The Ogerpon comes in, and that thing is greeted by an unfriendly Hurricane. I don't know what they thought I was going to click there. Regardless, that's going to take care of the pond, and that's great, because that was... I mean, that was probably a massive misplay. I mean, there's nothing out there. They should have saved that to be able to revenge switch in and outspeed and kill me with a Cudgel. But now they go Toxicroak. It actually was anticipation. It's not dry skin. Anticipate this Hurricane right to the face, though, buddy. We outspeed because Charizard's definitely faster than Toxicroak. And Buddy has absolutely dropped the ball on that one. So that's a dead Croak. And just like that, Charizard's absolutely running through him. Now the final mon is going to end up being the Dunsparce. And I'm like, what could possibly happen here? I'm going to go for a Weather Ball. It's my biggest damage. It's often your biggest damage even whenever the rain is up. It turns out it does have a Focus Sash, though, and so we're kind of a little bit blue-balled there by, you know, the little body bag action. So it lives with the Sash. It can now finish me off, and down goes the Zard. So I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Sometimes the captain's got to go down with the ship. Charizard, this is fine. Honestly, but it feels kind of nice, because guess what I can do? I can spread the love around a little bit. This thing's obviously just anybody can grab a free one here. And you know who needs a free one is generally going to be Luvdisc. I can bring in the Breaker of Worlds and outspeed this thing, obviously, and then just touch it and kill it. So I go Ice Beam so I don't miss a Hydro Pump, and Luvdisc once again absolutely on top. So that's going to be a dead Sparse with its weird Anybody else disappointed by the Dunsparce evolution? They really just... I feel like they trolled us on that one. But that's going to be the end of that one. Kind of a weird, ridiculous game again. I don't know what people are switching in their nonsense for. But that's going to do it for that one. And since we're not quite satisfied, that's going to bring us into match number 3. I got a little bonus one here for you because we're having fun with the Rain team. I have quite possibly the most ridiculous Rain sweepers ever, being Luvdisc and Charizard, which is funny. But with that, let's just jump into this next one. Okay, so this time, my opponent leads off with Fortress, which is kind of expected. This thing's got Sturdy, and for that reason, I predict that I'm going to lead off with Pelipper right off the bat. What I want to do is, A, get up the Rain, but also I can U-turn, and knowing that this thing is just going to go for some type of hazards, expecting Stealth Rock most likely, I go for the U-turn because I can break this thing Sturdy most importantly, but then I can bring in Charizard before the Stealth Rocks come up, because obviously Buddy is just allergic to those Stealth Rocks. So as I bring in the Charizard here, it also still is a natural predator to this 4 times weak fire-ass Fortress, so that feels pretty good. They do go for the Stealth Rock, which is perfect. And at this point, it's time to threaten this thing out with a Rain lowered fire damage. But little do they know, I'm not going for any fire. I am instead clicking Weather Ball because it's still going to do a lot to a Fortress. And what's even better is they expect the fire move. They go into the Arcanine, who is met now. Instead of a potential Flash Fire boost, guess what? Water Balls to the face. And that is going to take care of Hisuian Arcanine, which would have been very satisfying if it was Flash Fire for them. But instead, the surprise Weather Ball, nobody sees it coming. So that just straight up takes care. That just straight up takes care of the Arcanine, which is honestly great because that's a huge threat. Now, as they now decide to, as they go into Bruxish, this thing is, I'm a little bit afraid of it being Choice Scarf. And for that reason, I'm going to pull out the Wet Zard right off the bat, dude. I'm going to go straight for the Terra Water. If it ends up being Choice Scarf, it's going to outspeed, and then I can live any type of attack this thing wants to throw at me. But I do outspeed. It's not going to be Choice Scarf, and 100% accurate Life Orb boosted Stab Hurricane is just enough to take care of the ugly fish. So that is quite satisfying. I do turn myself water for pretty much no reason here, which is fine though. But as now they end up bringing in the Delibird. The one thing is I don't have Stealth Rock up, so I'm thinking this thing probably Focus Sash. But as I go for the Weather Ball here, I'm thinking a Freeze Dry probably worst case scenario. It does end up living with a Focus Sash, which is unfortunate. But I mean, in general, it's just a Delibird. What's the worst that could happen? I take a little bit of Life Orb chip. Thing is just stationary in the air. It turns out they go for an Ice Beam, which I don't know. I assumed that there was supposed to be a Freeze Dry. Would have been a whole lot better for him. But instead, yeah, no, Charizard is just going to be able to finish it with a Weather Ball. Because for whatever reason, Delibird's slow. Also, the animation of that thing when it's flying is very strange. That's gonna destroy the Delibird regardless. And we continue to move with the Zard. Whatever. We take some Life Orb chip, and now look, they've got 3 Mons left. They decide to go into Clefable. As I'm like, the Clefable probably could live in attack here. Not sure why they go Deli. I don't know. Understand what any world why they go Delibird there, but I mean, I'm just gonna click Weather Ball on the Clefable here, and also they still have a Chansey in the back. So I mean, that's the one thing that can take in attacks. But the Clefable does end up living, and they end up going for the Cosmic Power. I don't know if Buddy thought I was gonna swap out there or what, but Cosmic Power is surely not gonna save you when Weather Ball does like 98% to you. They probably thought they were going to take that much better, but they don't, and now Clefable is screwed. They decide that obviously you're kind of forced to either let it die or switch, and now they bring in the one thing that I've been worried about the entire time, which is, of course, the most special defensive Mon in the damn game, which is going to be like an Eevee-like Chansey. Weather Ball does considerable chip to it. I assume they didn't go Chansey earlier because it can only really click Seismic Toss, and like maybe they thought that it was like a 3-hit KO with Weather Ball. Regardless, I'm going to continue to throw Weather Balls here. It's actually going to be able to put this thing down below half. Or at about half anyway. I take some Life Orb, and then I do go down to a Seismic Toss. So why wouldn't they go into that earlier? I literally have no idea. But as the Zard sadly does go down at this point, knowing that this Chansey has been around, the one thing it was honestly kind of a problem for the squad. If regardless, I have a fighting type. I have some fighting stab with the Virizion. I don't have a whole lot of physical options, but what I do have is this Leaf that'll punch the shit out of you. So I bring in the Virizion here, and consider they do still have Fortress left in the back, but they go for the Protect here. Would have been actually a pretty sweet option to go for a Swords Dance to just easily clean up the sweep, but I guess I wasn't even worried about a Thunder Wave because I am Lumberry anyway. But I go for the Close Combat because there's no reason not to just spam it, and they do stay in here. Close Combat's going to be able to throw some scrambled eggs all over the damn place. That's a dead Chansey. So with that, now they've got 2 Mons left. It's going to be the Fortress, who does have its Sturdy broken, but other than that, it's pretty much healthy. And then they've got the Clefable, who's just on the brink of death. So as they do, of course, bring in the Fortress, Buddy with his little glasses is like, please do not punch me. I figure I might as well just stay in and close combat a couple of times. I think it'd probably be like a 3-hit KO, something like that. Also, Fortress not generally known for its offensive presence. So even with the close combat drops, I could probably still take attacks. I do get hit by some Rocky Helmet, so that hurts. But as they now Bug Bite, it almost is enough to take care of me. And they also eat my Lumberry for pretty much no reason. Buddy had no benefit of taking my Lumberry, but honestly just rude that it eats that. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but still, it's the principle of it, and my Lumberry has been stolen and I'm pissed. But now they decide the game's probably out of reach. They do go for the Terra Bug, which is going to allow... Actually, you know what? It doesn't really change much, but Fortress, you never really see put the antennas on its head, so that's kind of cool. Close combat doesn't do much, but I got enough chip to the point where I'm thinking maybe Love Disc can come in and clean the game up for us, which would be always fun. So I take some more Rocky Helmet. I'm nearly dead. They finish me with another Bug Bite. Little Terra boosted Bug Bite for that last like 2 HP I have. Very nice. Down goes the Virizion, but I did my job. I took care of the Chansey. We got enough chip on the Fortress. And I can now just see if I can get... I can see if we can get a little bit of Love Disc action to clean up the final 2. Just because... Literally, why the hell not? So I bring in Pelipper first just to be able to get up the rain. I guess doesn't really matter, actually, come to think of it. Pelipper could probably finish this off for us, but what would be the fun in that? Nothing. That is the answer. I'm now going to be able to just go right into... I figure, you know what, Love Disc doesn't really hard switch into much, but a Bug Bite from a Fortress probably could live one. Turns out they go Gyro Ball here, and... They click Gyro Ball there, and I live it easily. Hell, I mean, not easily. Love Disc actually generally gets destroyed by stuff. But now I can Hydro Pump, and with a crit easily, I mean, Specs Hydro Pump is going to knock that thing out. It don't matter how much special attack you got. That Fortress is getting drowned. So down goes the Fortress. Now the final Mon is going to be the Clefable, who is, again, just on an inch of its life. So I can just easily be able to outspeed here. If I connect on a Hydro Pump, that's considered a dub for the Love Disc right there. We connect on it. That's going to be a dead Clefable, and that's going to be the end of the game. So, with the ridiculous misplays that have happened today, look, if you... I get the battles I can get, man. If you want to battle, join my Discord. We have a little community where we try to get some battles going. We could definitely probably use you. And with that, I'll catch you next time. Peace out.